tape around his
Hello, and welcome back to Behind the Lines with Gabe and Kev. This is officially week 8. How you doing, Kev?
Doing better, not sick this week. It's been a couple weeks since I've been on, so happy to be back and healthy and feeling good.
Glad to have my main co-host back, and it seems the tides have turned a little bit because I actually have a bit of a sinus infection that I'm battling going to Austin this weekend, so we're doing everything we can to fight it off. However, we got a podcast to do, so I'm not going to back out of it.
Dude, I couldn't even speak last week. It was awful.
All right.
Here we are.
Here we are, week 8 scoreboard. Obviously, I got the dub over Noah, 135-110. The Slim Reaper sleepers come out. They beat Thomas the Tutu Train. And it was just it was a good week all around. Ramondre Stevenson, the only real disappointment. It didn't matter by the time Jacoby Myers played. Noah had Christian McCaffrey drop 30 like usual, but a few key guys underperforming, notably Devontae Adams down in the clutch, Chuba Hubbard, who is expected to score more, but measly 8-point projection. And then beyond that, you have guys like Trevor Lawrence. And so he performed pretty close to projected, but I performed over projected, and it just was too much for him. Notably, though, we'll talk about it, the Kirk Cousins injury. So.
Yeah, good week for you. Overperforming your 121 projection mark, obviously solid. And then Noah doing pretty much what he was supposed to, minus Devontae Adams. So you came away with a pretty clean dub, 135, very respectable number. 110's not bad, but didn't get the job done.
No.
So both of you moved to 4-4 with that game.
Yes.
A lot of 4-4 teams. Another game is Netflix and Hill versus Tower of London. Netflix and Hill came on top, a total of 106-87, kind of a stinker, especially from Bennett here. The key disappointment being the Chiefs' offense in general. Patrick Mahomes putting up a stick, which is honestly probably one of the most shocking things to have on your bingo card, but that happened. So he 26 points underperforming there. Kenneth Walker also underperforms. Chris Olave underperforms. Travis Kelce underperforms. Really just disappointing week for Benny here. It's good to see Garrett Wilson putting up 17, though. That's kind of a comforting thought going forward. Maybe the Jets offense they didn't really do that well, but Garrett Wilson's hyper-targeted, so good to see that. And then for Eli, Jahmyr Gibbs, huge week with Dave Montgomery absent. Dalton Schultz, kind of a disappointment. He struggled at tight end this whole season and continues to have issues there, but he's able to get the job done and, moves to 5-3. Bennett falls to 4-4 here.
Yeah, not much else to say, other than the fact that, it came down to the wire for Eli. He only had 77 points by the time Jahmyr Gibbs played, and it was the last player in the matchup. He ended up dropping an incredible 30, which pushed Eli over 100, but it was a real stinker of a matchup going down to the wire. Yeah, nothing much to be said about that.
Next, and Tyreek Hill just continues to be incredible. It's honestly insane the season that he's putting on. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Charlie, whose team name was Baby Want Milky, then welcome to 0-8 Sam. Now future 3-6 beats tanking for Caleb 139-110. Charlie put up a good week, but notably too as a result of 3 guys. Josh Allen 31 points, DeAndre Hopkins 35 points, Austin Eckler 23 points. And then you had Brandon Ayuk, who performed as expected, but everybody else was underperforming by a significant margin. Brandon Cooks caught a touchdown in the win over the Cowboys, so that kind of inflated his point total there. He was going to have a sub-10-point week beyond that. But Charlie's got some guys that are injured and coming back off IR in the next few weeks, so he's fighting to stay out of the poop bowl playoffs, although he's firmly there right now. And then Sam's team just really didn't do well. Desmond Ridder only 3.4 points, and he didn't get Will Levis in the waivers, which we'll talk about later. And then Alexander Madison kind of having his job taken by Cam Akers at the moment. They're in a battle. They're getting pretty similar snap percentage. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And then Kyle Pitts, who's just been consistently underperforming. It is nice to see Jalen Waddle and Joe Mixon, putting up points there. But Sam's team again barely cracks 100. Most matchups you won't win scoring 110. So it's unfortunate.
Yeah, Sam's luck just continues to be poor. Obviously, he could perform a little bit better, but great week from Charlie here, 139. I think that's probably his season high. With those three guys that you pointed out, and I think things are only going to get worse for Sam too. With Jordan Addison's had such a great couple weeks with Justin Jefferson being down, which has been awesome for him. But now that Kirk Cousins is down, you probably think there's going to be some regression coming, and he doesn't have another QB. And it's just announced today that Taylor Heineke is going to be the starter. So Ritter's not even the guy anymore, and Sam doesn't have another plan. He's got Kyler, I know, but I don't think Kyler's going to start this week either.
No, he's not.
Sam really, who knows when he'll win his first game, but it's not this week. Charlie keeps his season relatively competitive. He stays in the picture, that's for sure.
He stays in this week. If he loses and goes to 2-6 there, you're kind of in the same boat as Sam and Alex.
He's staying competitive, staying alive, treading water barely, but he's there. My matchup versus Henry. Henry kind of owns me. I've never beaten him. I'm 0-3, and that's just kind of devastating. But he beats him 143 to 115. He's the highest scorer of the week, of course, and I had a pretty midweek, to be honest. Joe Burrow had a great week. It seems like he's finally starting to feel like himself. Breece Hall has really come around recently. Jonathan Taylor had a pretty disappointing week after a solid first half. And then Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, really devastating weeks for me. They kind of just killed me. Matthew Stafford exited the game, and they just weren't moving the ball very well to begin with anyways against Dallas. So just kind of devastating. Not a very good week for me. But then for Henry, he has a bunch of guys do solid. Jamar Chase, 25. CeeDee Lamb was really the guy that killed me. He puts up 41 points. I assume that's wide receiver 1 on the week. That really hurt because, that's the bulk of his points, honestly. Like,
that was player of the week too.
Yeah, he was outstanding this week. So really stinks. I have like a history with CeeDee Lamb too. He always does really well against me for some reason. So every time I see him, I just know he's going to do something crazy. And of course he does. And then Herbert also with a 30 bomb kind of negates Joe Burrow. I made one kind of managerial decision incorrectly with benching Tyler Lockett over Rashee Rice. I got cute and thought the matchup for Lockett was poor and the matchup for Rashee Rice was solid, but it wouldn't have mattered anyways. But I could have had a little bit of a better week. But here we are. I fall to 5-3. It puts me 4th on the standings now, and Henry just continues his run. He stays atop the standings.
Yeah, he does. You covered it pretty well. The only thing I have to say, we mentioned it last week. The Dallas versus Rams matchup was super key for you, and unfortunately it went the wrong way. The Rams really just got dominated. Final score of a 23-point difference, but it was much uglier than that.
It was terrible from the rip.
Yeah, as you said,
from the rip.
Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua both putting sub 10 points is never going to be a good sign, especially when you have both of them on the team. And then Rashee Rice 9.6, and the Chiefs can only put up 9 points. It's devastating for fantasy.
Absolutely.
5th matchup of the week. Scary Terry's Big Toe railing off another win over Riley Reed Option. Riley Reed Option drops down to 4-4, and Scary Terry's Big Toe moves up to 5-3. Wyatt dropped a respectable 130 points in this game, and it was mostly due to Jalen Hurts, 35 points, Alvin Kamara with 27. And then, you had a couple of guys in the teens in those areas. A bit of an underperformance by Tony Pollard, despite how explosive the Cowboys were. And so that's definitely something to watch. And then Nico Collins just continually returns to earth, and that part of Wyatt's trade for Jamar Chase just looks worse and worse week in. However, Kamara's consistently putting up great points, so you can't say that it's a wash yet. And then on Tal's team, Miles Sanders putting up 2 yards and a 0 bomb, even though he played, is disgusting. I know there's conversations being had about the trade I had with him, but it's just how the game goes. Dallas Goedert, unfortunately, disappointing week. And then other than that, it was just guys who performed around or slightly above projected.
Yeah, not a terrible week from Tal. 108's not awful, but both guys did exactly what they were projected to do. This was projected 128, 111, and ends at 130, 108. So pretty much got exactly what you're expecting. Miles Sanders with the donut really shoots Tal in the foot here. He starts both tight ends and actually has some success doing so. I think this is big for Dalton Kincaid though going forward, someone to be confident with. And then I think just for Wyatt, obviously Nico Collins has really fallen off, as you said, and Tony Pollard just continues to struggle. So there's definitely some issues, but 130 is a very respectable week and a good win for Wyatt here. Our final matchup, let's go golfing versus Paul Allen. Kind of a blowout game here. Let's go golfing puts up 99, I think is what I saw. 99 points, and Paul Allen puts up 139. So 40-point game here. Really solid week for Al here, even though Lamar Jackson had a pretty bad week. AJ Brown just continues to be an incredible
Monster.
receiver. I think he's wide receiver 2 on the season behind Tyreek Hill now. So he's been absolutely incredible. Derrick Henry and Rashad White do pretty much what they're expected. T. Higgins does what he's expected. George Kittle overperforms, and then Deontay Johnson and Tank Dell relatively what they were projected to do. Solid week from Al, 139. Not much we can really say. He's won 6 games in a row, and the kid just keeps playing. He just keeps going. He keeps getting W's. And let's go golfing. Alex only 99 points. A lot to be desired here. CJ Stroud only 12 points. Not what you like to see. Solid week from Sam Laporta. Seems like he's been one of the greater tight end add-ons this season. I'm not sure if he was drafted. If he was drafted, he was drafted super late, but he's been incredible this season. Adam Thielen continues to overperform or do what he has done all season. Drafted 150th, 13th round by Bennett, and I guess eventually traded to Alex at some point in time. But Amon Ra, another solid weekend. Kendrick Bourne falls with the injury, but 99 points really isn't going to do it for you. Really bad week from his running backs, and yeah, just unfortunately, he kind of had a little streak going, but with that loss, he falls to 2-6, and probably on the outside looking in now for Alex, unfortunately for him. But Al moves to second on the standings.
Yeah, and I think you covered it really well. The only other thing is maybe a shining light for Alex is Javonte Williams seems to be getting the workhorse load in Denver. So you might be able to swap him out for one of your 2 running backs who are, somewhat underperforming. But it remains to be seen if Alex or Sam can put together a squad that's going to win when it matters. Alex ripped off 2 in a row, but it wasn't enough. He falls to Al here, and now he's right back staring down the barrel of the poop ball playoffs.
Absolutely.
And now we'll hop over into our week 9. We'll take an early look and see what we have going on. Rosters should be fairly accurate at this point, given that it is Wednesday that we're filming. Me versus White, 4-4 versus 5-3. The current projection is a smoke show, 122 to 101, and it does not look great. I'm having to start Baker Mayfield or potentially Will Levis, who I got on the waivers. And then Royce Freeman, because my main guy ETN is out. So that's like a 15-point difference right there. I'm hoping that Royce Freeman will put up good points. Green Bay doesn't have a great rush D. And then Devontae Smith in a, divisional game against Dallas. And then I've got a bunch of receivers and now TJ Hawkinson without Kirk. So there's a lot of question marks surrounding my team at the moment, and I'm going to need them to go out and overperform by a significant margin. As for Wyatt, obviously he has Jalen Hurts against Dallas, Tony Pollard against Philly, Alvin Kamara against one of the worst defenses in the league. So I am scared of that matchup. And then other than that, there's nothing really that I'm extremely worried about, but I am gonna have to hope and pray on a miracle.
Yeah, you being down ETN hurts. Obviously, that's been your MVP of the season so far.
And
He's
Ridley.
been yeah. But I mean ETN especially has just been so incredible. So obviously it hurts to miss his 25 points that he's been putting up every single week. It's been kind of insane. But I think for you to win this game, you just gotta kind of hope that Gabe Davis has one of his Gabe Davis games where he goes out and just gets like 2 targets, catches 1 pass for 6 yards. He does that occasionally, and that's definitely in the realm of possibilities. And you gotta hope Nico Collins continues trending down, which he has been. Alvin Kamara is 100% going to get his points. It seems like he's a reliable guy, and Jalen Hurts is going to get his points as well. So you just got to hope that Baker Baker's got it in him this week. Maybe Devontae Smith week. Michael Pittman against a really bad defense. So there's definitely hope here. But yeah, you definitely need some over performances to get to bring out the dub. The next game though, Thomas the 2-2 train versus Tower of London, both
Up top,
4-4
up top.
teams. Oh, sorry. We got another matchup first. I'm getting
Mm.
ahead of myself here. Netflix and Hill versus Taking for Caleb. Um, Eli at 5-3, sitting fifth, and Sam, as we all know, sitting at 0-8 in 12th. The projection is 111-91. But Sam currently does not have QB. He's got Ritter in there, who was just announced to not be the starter for this week for the Falcons. He's got Kyler Murray on the bench, who could return this week, but that doesn't seem likely. Eli's down a lot of guys. He was down. Yeah, Debo. I don't know. Oh, wait, they're on a bye anyway, so it doesn't matter. Christian Kirk on a bye, Brock Purdy on a bye, and Jahmyr Gibbs all on a bye. So Eli's honestly throwing out the B team here. Fortunately for him, he's playing Sam. No offense, Sam, but we see how this team has been all year. He's got Jordan Love under center. DeAndre Swift, Gus Edwards, Tyreek Hill is going to get his points. Gus Edwards had a really, really good week last week, 3 touchdowns for him.
Mm-hmm.
Poached a great game from Lamar. Even though the Ravens offense was stellar, Lamar didn't really do that well because of Gus Edwards. So maybe there's a chance he does that again. But he's got the Jordan Love, Christian Watson stack, and the interesting pickup, Demario Douglas, who is now the replacement for the injured Kendrick Bourne. So we'll see how that works out for him. And then for Sam, we got to see how the Vikings offense looks. I did read that Josh Dobbs is not going to start this week. It's going to be who's the other guy that they had? It's not
Case
Josh Dobbs though.
Keenum is one of their guys, and
No,
then
it's not Keenum. It's like something with a J.
they have a young
Uh,
guy as well. It's
yeah, that I think that's who they're going with this week. I can get a fact check on that soon, but I did see Josh Dobbs will not be the starter. So we'll see how this affects Jordan Addison and Alexander Madison. And then, 2 Falcons guys, 2 Vikings guys, they're all playing each other. That's gonna be what it comes down to for Sam, all in that same game.
Yeah, and interestingly, Eli picks up Josh Palmer, trades away Kyron Williams to me, and it didn't prove valuable for him last week, even though he got the dub. Josh Palmer only put up 5 points. However, he needs him this week with the amount of people he has on bye and still being out Debo Samuel to injury and Khalil Herbert. He needs guys. And so trading Kyron Williams for Josh Palmer may pay dividends in this close matchup. Once Sam puts in a QB who will probably be projected 12, 13 points, it'll be a sub 10-point margin. And anything can happen in those. Eli is definitely nervous. I've heard rumblings from the Netflix and Hill club that the players are scared. The ones who are unable to play this week, they can't watch. They're afraid.
Yeah, he's got so many buys. It's like maybe Sam could finally take advantage of what would normally be a tough matchup. That actually turns out to be a relatively weak Netflix and Hill squad this week. Depleted squad, I should say.
Yeah. Did you get a fact check on who's starting?
Jaren Hall is the starter for the Vikings this week.
Jaren Hall. Diving into our third matchup here, we have Thomas the 2-2 train versus Tower of London. At first glance, it's an extremely dog matchup. Another 20-point. All 3 of the games that we've been looking at so far are currently 20-point projections. Obviously, Sam's with an asterisk, but Noah is starting everybody he can. He does have CMC, Trevor Lawrence, and Jameson Williams on a bye, who's mostly a bench rider. But Bennett doesn't have anybody that he normally starts on bye, and it's tough. He's still rocking J.K. Dobbins in the IR, which is definitely an interesting play. But Noah's team is just not looking great. He's starting Chuba Hubbard and Darrell Henderson, both guys that he picked up off waivers because one of his running backs is out. He is starting Brian Robinson, who's playing New England, who's got a great rush D. Wouldn't expect a ton of points there. And really, it's going to come down to receivers. Devontae Adams has been underperforming for him recently. Most notably, he had a stick in the last game. And Cole Kmet too. Marquise Brown, how will he perform with the new quarterback? And then for Bennett's team, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce against sorry about that, guys. Sinus infection. Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce dealing passes. I'm assuming it's going to be bombs against Miami's defense. They're not very good. Chris Olave against Chicago, Garrett Wilson against the Chargers, Josh Downs against Carolina. He's got great matchups all across the board.
Yeah, I'm looking at this game and I just don't see any way that Noah wins this game, if I'm being honest. You just know this Miami Chiefs game is probably going to be a shootout. Miami's offense is so solid, and Kansas City is going to have to score. And then who better to do than Mahomes and Kelsey? So, and Noah's down Christian McCaffrey. So I mean, obviously anything can happen, but this seems like Bennett's got everything going for him coming into this week. I'd feel pretty solid if I were him. But
Yeah.
both teams on the fringe of the playoffs as well. So very big games for both teams.
Mm-hmm.
Both teams sitting at 4-4.
Definitely a big matchup for Noah. Bennett has quite a good team, so I mean, I'm pretty confident that he's going to make it in the playoffs with the Mahomes Kelsey stack.
Yeah.
Noah though in a tough spot this week.
Next matchup is Henry versus Charlie. CD's nuts versus Future 3-6. Henry sitting first and Charlie sitting 10th. Projected score 132 to 103. All of Charlie's team is questionable pretty much from what I can tell. He's got Brandon Ayuk, David Montgomery, Russell Wilson, and Josh Reynolds all on a bye this week. So very brutal when Henry is at full strength. Yet again, he's down Zay Jones, but that doesn't really matter for his squad. He's got Jerome Ford back this week. Honestly, I will say though, Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen have a tough matchup against the Jets. One of the best defenses in the league, but Saquon Barkley with a very nice matchup against Las Vegas, and Jerome Ford with a very nice matchup against Arizona. So this could be, maybe sort of a down week for Henry, but Henry's down weeks are really like 120 points. And I think Charlie's going to really need to have an explosive week to get it done this week. I will say high point, Josh Allen obviously always does it, but he's got Cincinnati this week. That game is going to be a shootout. Josh Allen's going to have to score points. He's going to score points. But on the downside, as I just mentioned with Herbert and Keenan Allen, same for Austin Eckler. Got to face the Jets. That's a tough matchup. Then a bunch of honestly just like mid matchups. Nothing that really jumps off. Amari DiMarcado against Cleveland is going to be brutal. But this is a 30-point line. A lot has got to go correctly for Charlie, and a lot's going to go wrong for Henry in order for Charlie to get a win here.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. You can take it over.
The only other thing I was going to say is I think this matchup could come down to injuries. Charlie has Josh Allen, who's questionable with a shoulder he's been dealing with for a few weeks. Aaron Jones, questionable with a hamstring that he just came back from. Amari DiMarcado, questionable, and D-Hop, questionable, but that's most likely just because he's old. And then looking at Henry's team, Saquon Barkley, questionable, Raheem Mostert, questionable, and Jerome Ford, questionable. That's your three starting running backs right there. And if you're down those those three guys, it's unlikely that he's rostering five running backs. So he's going to have to find guys to put in there if some of those fellas can't play.
Yeah, I'm not aware of really much of any of the injuries
We can take a peek.
that we just listed outside of Josh Allen, but I don't think any of these guys are going to be
ankle injury for Saquon, and he's
limited practice. It doesn't seem like any of these guys are going to miss time though.
Non-participant.
He's old. I feel like that's a veteran rest day on a Wednesday practice. Jerome Ford, though, was very limited for snaps last week against the Seahawks. I know he was not really projected to play originally, so everyone benched him in every single league. Then kind of last minute, he was announced to play. So outside of Jerome Ford, I would say Henry should be pretty good to go. And then, Jerome Ford being kind of a question mark. We'll see how many snaps he can get this week because he did not get very many last week.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that Henry's out of it. I'm just saying
yeah.
It's something to watch out for, especially with Saquon's history in the past and this season with ankle injuries. If he picks up another one and the Giants have nothing to play for, they might not be rushed to push him back out there.
That is very true. I'll go ahead and take this one. I'll give you the last one. This is my matchup. Me versus Al, 4th and 2nd. I'm sitting at 5-3. Al is sitting at 6-2. Al's on a 6-game win streak after a 0-2 start. He's projected 109 currently. I'm projected 127. He does not have a tight end currently because Kittle is on a bye, and he did just acquire Goddard in a trade. So we'll just assume Goddard's roughly projected.
Goddard was projected 8 points.
Okay, only 8 points. So that puts him at 117 to 127. So a 10-point nod to me. I'm a little scared with the Cooper Kupp Puka Nacua situation coming into this week. Stafford has a UCL sprain in his right thumb. Questionable to play this week. If he's not playing, I'm a little concerned. I don't even know who their next QB is off the top of my head. But that's obviously that's the key matchup for me is Cooper Kupp and Puka, as it always is. But if they're down their QB, that can kind of cause some issues. But honestly, my matchups are not too bad. As I mentioned earlier, with Josh Allen. The Buffalo Cincinnati game's going to be a shootout. So it's nice to have Joe Burrow in that game. Al does have T Higgins to sort of counteract that slightly. So something to monitor. And he just got Tyler Boyd. I'm not sure if he's going to play him or not, but I know he did just acquire him. We got Breece Hall against the Chargers, great matchup. Jonathan Taylor against Carolina, great matchup. Mike Evans against Houston, great matchup. Mark Andrews against Seattle is a solid matchup. And then Tyler Lockett against Baltimore, not the greatest. And the Rams guys against Green Bay, not the greatest. But on the other side, Lamar against Seattle, solid matchup. Derrick Henry against Pittsburgh, run defense could be kind of tough. That's a Thursday night game, so it'll be kind of interesting to see how that starts off. And then Rachaad White against Houston, solid. AJ Brown, who cares? Doesn't matter. T Higgins, I mentioned. And then it'll be Goddard. Eagles are playing
Dallas.
Dallas. Yeah, that could be kind of tough. And then Deontay Johnson against Tennessee, and Amari versus Cardinals, which is a solid matchup. So honestly, a lot of good matchups for both of us coming into this week. I think this game should be pretty high scoring.
Yeah.
And man, I just want to beat Al so badly.
Oh, I
So
know you,
sadly.
man. And
He's won 6 games in a row and I can't handle it.
the thing is, I mean, with him putting Goddard in, you will be still projected 10 points higher, but we've seen Al's voodoo magic in action this season, and unfortunately, he is in a code freeze or something right now. He's working, so he's unable to come on this week, but we're gonna have him on next week. And
I won't even be able to talk to him if he beats me, dude.
everybody that has played him scores very little points.
Yeah.
And so I'm just very interested to see how this one plays out. And it'll be good to have you both here to talk next week post matchup.
Yeah. That'll be awful if he beats me. I just won't be able to handle it.
Final matchup of the week. This is kind of a battle of the dogs here, really a fight to stay alive for Tal. Let's go golfing. Alex's team 2-6 in 11th place, facing off against Riley Reed option. Tal's team 4-4 in 8th place. Current projection is 109 to 101 in Tal's favor. And they're really, I don't really feel like talking about this matchup. I mean, I think that both of these teams are kind of scrapped together and battling. Notably, Isaiah Pacheco could put up a lot of points against Miami. Zay Flowers, pretty good matchup against Seattle. Adam Thielen against Indianapolis, their secondary is all right. And then Taysom Hill, he's currently starting in the flex, who's questionable. He's down a lot of guys to buy: Javonte, Jared, Laporta, and Amon-Ra. Basically, the entire Lions team.
Which is his whole team.
Yeah, and so they're gone this week. So he needs some bench guys to really outperform, and Tal just needs his guys to perform as projected. I mean, Josh Jacobs has been doing pretty good, but Miles Sanders has been doing nothing for him since he received him in the trade. Stephon Diggs always going to get his points. Tyler Boyd, who's no longer on Tal's team, he'll be starting probably Roshan Johnson or the other receiver that he picked up.
Rashid Shaheed from the Saints.
Shaheed. Dallas Goedert is no longer there, which means he'll be starting Dalton Kincaid and Michael Thomas. So this could change a little bit in the coming days. However, I do think Tal is still favored in this matchup, and Alex is going to need some things to go his way.
Yeah, I got nothing more to add there. Let's go ahead and move on to our injury segment. I will go ahead and just let you kick it off.
Should we talk trades first?
Okay, we can talk trades first, absolutely.
So we'll talk about mine first. Obviously, I trade Josh Palmer, and we have 10 minutes left, so we'll start.
Yeah, what to fly? Yeah.
I trade Josh Palmer to Eli, pick up Kyron Williams, who won't be back till week 12. I'm counting on him to come back strong. That way, I can lift my team out of the poverty zone. I got Will Levis in waivers, spent $16 on him. The next highest was $3, but it was something that I felt I needed to do, only having Baker Mayfield now. And then Tal trades Rashid Shaheed and Roshan Johnson Tal receives Roshan Johnson and Rashid Shaheed and gives up Tyler Boyd and Dallas Goedert to Al. I mean, kind of a weird trade for Al.
Yeah, Al's doing this for a spot start for Dallas Goedert because he's down George Kittle this week. He wanted Trey McBride off the waivers, which I stole from him as a managerial play. And then he goes against Dallas Goedert through trade. But interesting for Tal. I think he probably would have been better off just keeping Goedert. But he gets a solid potential Roshan Johnson. I think there's a lot of upside potentially for him there if he gets the starting role.
Yeah, I agree. And that's
come back from injury.
That's about it for the transactions. So we'll move into some injuries. I'll kick it off. Obviously, the big one, Kirk Cousins, Achilles. and I'm probably gonna do another tribute right now with some sad music and some highlight clips. And I mean, he was bombing it, dude. He was first in touchdowns, he was second in yards, and he was like third in yards per attempt or something. He was having an MVP type season. Kirk Cousins was lighting it up. His team wasn't playing very well overall, but it just hurts to lose the guy. And now I've got to scramble. I have Baker Mayfield and Will Levis, and I may be making a move for another quarterback at some point in the next few weeks.
Yeah, it sucks to lose Cousins, just in general, and also just the guys that are attached to him, whether that be Jordan Addison, who's been having a great rookie season, Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, even Alexander Madison, Cam Akers. So really all around, just really sucks to see him go down. That's really the big one. And then also Kendrick Bourne tore his ACL, receiver for the Patriots. He is out for the season. Matt Stafford has a UCL sprain in his thumb. He's questionable for this week for week 9. Rams have a bye in week 10, so I kind of have expectations that he's going to be sidelined for week 9, rest week 10, be back for week 11. That's most likely.
Yeah.
But something to monitor. Deshaun Watson's not going to play this week yet again. He still has a shoulder thing, I guess. I don't even really know anymore at this rate. And then Kenny Pickett has a hurt back, but is going to play Thursday night. So something to monitor for George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, and Najee Harris, and whoever, Freiermuth. Kenny Pickett is not 100%.
Yeah, and the only thing I have to say about Sean Watson is the Browns know that you get bad karma when you roster a rapist, so they're keeping him off the roster, at least the starting roster, as long as possible.
Yeah, that's a lot of weeks in a row that he's missed for what seemed like a pretty minor injury at first. So maybe
Yeah,
he's just kind of a bum.
he seems like a bum, especially with all the guaranteed money he's getting.
Yeah. But that moves us to our talking points. We've got just a few here to wrap us up. We got 7 minutes left, so we'll kind of have to go a little bit quick. But some we've already touched on, the interleague ones. Al, 6-game winning streak. Shout out to him. He started off 0-2. Looked like he was going to be, have a pretty rough rookie season, but he has really turned it around. We've talked about his voodoo magic, and it just continues to work. It continues to pay off, and he continues to get W's. He's got me this week. I'm really hoping to put an end to it. And yeah, that's good job for Al, though. Shout out to him for being second on the standings.
Yeah, and I mean, it's impressive to see what he's done. We called his team boom or bust many times, and it seems like while they may not boom, they are booming on the win column. 6 in a row is something to watch out for, and if he can push it to 7 this week, that might be the longest stretch of anybody this season. Sam, of course, we have to talk about it. He is 0-8, and it's tough. It's really tough because Henry last year had a 7-game losing streak. Sam now breaks that tie, takes the record for the longest losing streak in fantasy. Never thought it would happen to start the season, but it's really tough for him, and his roster just got worse with the fact that Desmond Ridder, finally, the prophecy came true. He threw his career away, and they're starting Taylor Heineke.
Yeah, absolutely detrimental start for Sam. A historical start. Who knows what the next 0-8 team will be? Maybe he can right the ship. I'm hoping eventually for him he gets a W. But
Yeah.
Henry continues to dominate. He's the highest scorer this week. Takes me down. I was second in the standings. Beat me in a pretty solid fashion. Although obviously I never am able to have any success against Henry. My team always shits the bed. His team always booms against me. He's kind of like my kryptonite, I guess, at this rate. So maybe I get my redemption in the playoffs against him and can turn it around then. But he just continues to plug away. He's still top of the standings, and he plays Charlie this week. So I expect things to probably remain the same.
Yeah, and we kind of mentioned it already, but Taylor Heineke, he's the starter for the Falcons this week. What does this mean for Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and Bijan Robinson? You would expect probably a little bit more usage out of Bijan just because, I mean, Desmond Ritter's nothing to write home about, but your starting quarterback's not there. Typically, teams who are using their backup, they don't have as long to get familiar with the offense and the starting receivers, so they run the ball a bit more. But we may see more checkdowns to Kyle Pitts as well. Drake London, I do expect to probably have a pretty midweek, depending on how good Taylor Heineke is. He showed spurts at Washington, but he also showed spurts of being dog shit. So,
yeah, I think the bar is pretty low. Ritter set the bar pretty low, so I don't imagine Heineke can be much worse. I'm actually hoping that he is better for these guys than Ritter. But like you said, there's a lot of unknown with any backup QB, so we'll see what happens. I hope it's good for the Falcons, obviously as a fan and just in general. Josh Dobbs, though, we mentioned this, traded to the Vikings as one of the big this was like a fantasy highlighted trade deadline move. He's not starting this week. It's going to be Jaron Hall, but he will start in week 10 with the return of Justin Jefferson. So we'll see how the offense looks with Josh Dobbs at the helm. At worst, they'll be four. Hopefully, they're 4-5 because they're playing the Falcons. So
Yeah,
they're still kind of in the race, and interesting to see how that plays out.
definitely. I tried to get him from Wyatt. He wouldn't budge. He needed him for a bye week. So I got to look elsewhere, and that's where I got Will Levis. Speaking of something else that was unexpected, the Broncos beat the Chiefs badly. Mahomes puts up a stick. It was insane. I mean, usually, sometimes you have a guy in fantasy do horrible, or in the NFL, a team do horrible, but when it's the Chiefs and it's Mahomes, it's always something special, and especially against the worst defense in the NFL. I mean, Russell Wilson looked really good in this game for the most part, and Patrick Mahomes just looked washed. I mean, he's not washed, but he looked like he was.
Yeah, I heard rumors that he had like the flu or something. Who knows if that's an excuse, but really, really ugly performance. DeAndre Hopkins scored 3 touchdowns in Will Levis's debut, 3 touchdowns on 4 receptions for 128 yards. Um, I don't know how consistent this is going to be. Maybe Will Levis is better for D Hop than Ryan Tannehill was. Something definitely to keep an eye on. Obviously, 1 week is not going to be everything. I don't think the Falcons were planning on that to happen, so they didn't. There's no tape on Will Levis either. So it could just be kind of a fluke, but he's got Thursday Night Football tomorrow night. I'm interested to see how the Steelers approach Will Levis. And maybe he's good for D Hop. We'll see. That could be good for Charlie.
I'm hoping he's good for D Hop because I need Will Levis to score. And interestingly, Will Levis in that game scored more points. I mean, scored more touchdowns than Ryan Tannehill has all season. So
Yeah.
definitely a move that the Titans are making to start him. Speaking of another move, AJ Brown breaks the record 6 consecutive games with 125 yards. It's an NFL record. Absolutely insane. I mean, this guy is just explosive. There's not a lot else to say about it. He's not even old. He's 27, and now we see receivers, even like D Hop at 34, still performing well. So he's got longevity, he's got size, he's got talent, and he's putting up an incredible season.
Yeah, he's here to stay. He's on a great offense with Jalen Hurts as well. And he's been an incredible piece. A huge part of Al's success goes to AJ
Oh,
Brown, and I don't plan on AJ Brown stopping, barring injury. Prayers up, of course, but he's been absolutely dominant. Other guys been dominant. Travis Etienne, poaching all the touchdowns for the Jaguars. Sorry, Trevor Lawrence. Etienne rushes in everything. He has a lot of success getting in the end zone. He's only averaging like 4 yards a carry, but it doesn't matter. He's still like RB3 on the season. He's been incredible for you. Been one of the greatest, draft for your value this season. I was kind of out on him coming into this season, and I was a fool because he has been incredible. He gets a huge workload. He gets in the end zone constantly.
yeah, and he's carrying my team, and now he's on bye, so my team's got to perform without him. And it's going to be tough, but we'll see how it all shakes out in the end. So thank you for joining us, gentlemen. Kevin, thank you for coming back, and always a pleasure to talk through with you. And good luck, everybody.
Yep, solid pod. Thanks for listening, guys. Good luck this week, except for Al.